Hi everyone, I'm coming to you today with a video on my best yoga tips. For some of you who don't know this already, I've been practicing yoga for just as many years as I've been a practicing chiropractor. So that's been around 20 years, just to date myself. And I am as much in love with yoga as I am chiropractic. It's a big part of my life, and I wanted to share some of my best advice with you if you are brand new to the practice, or even if you've been practicing for some time and needing some instructions or some specific tips on the most common postures that most classes flow through. So I'm going to go through a little session with you today, and I welcome feedback. Any other questions or something wasn't clear, I'd be happy to have a follow-up video after this one. Okay, so just to start off, I just want to remind everyone that the practice of yoga always starts with breath work. So I'm not going to run through a full series or a full class right now, but I just want to remind you, because I just did an online class this morning with a center I've never practiced yoga with before, because they were offering some free classes, which is amazing. And it just wasn't what I was typically used to. It was really militant and hardcore, and there was no discussion about breath, and there was no easing into the practice. For me, yoga is a practice in mindfulness. It's an opportunity to, it's basically a moving meditation, or movement towards a meditation, which is what you're trying to achieve, which is getting out of your head, being in your body, using breath to help you work through postures and move forward in them, as opposed to pushing yourself into a posture while holding your breath. So I see that often in practice, and I just wanted to address that. So when you're in class, just be mindful of that. If you're not able to breathe comfortably and fully in any posture, it means that you're in it too far, and most likely are going to hurt yourself or missing the point of trying to achieve that posture. Yoga is not about comparison. So you're there on your own, and you're on your own mat, and if you're doing it properly, you're not really paying attention to what your neighbors are achieving or what they're doing on their mats, because we're all different, and we all have different capacities and skill levels and ages and injuries and all kinds of things that come to the mat each practice. So it's really a matter of keeping your ego in check, checking it at the door, and having a personal check-in with yourself about why you're doing that class, what you're hoping to achieve from it, and staying focused on that intention. So those are all important parts of yoga practice I wanted to talk about. So breath work. Now, many of you probably have this down pat, and some of you, maybe it's brand new information. So in yoga practice, they talk about something called Ujjayi breath, which is deep breathing, which is kind of like a swirling at the back of the throat. So the breath in yoga goes in through the nose and out through the nose. So for the most part, in yoga practice, your lips are closed. Obviously, if there's a space in your practice where you need to open your mouth for a breath, if you're feeling overexerted, you do that. But overall, the intention in yoga is to have a calm and even paced breath in through the nose and out through the nose. And it's your breath that helps mitigate the intensity of your practice, and will also give you a little bit of a barometer as to the intensity of your work. So if you're not able to breathe fluidly and succinctly, then again, you're pushing yourself a little too hard. Keep that in mind and back off. Take a break, go into child's pose, what have you. All those really just, and every good yoga instructor knows that. It's about allowing each student in a class to participate with whatever they need to be doing that day. So in other words, if you go to a yoga class and you find that what you really need to be doing is lying in Shavasana the entire class, because that's what you really needed that day, then that's really okay. So giving yourself permission to listen to your body and attend to it in the way that you see fit is really what you should do. Okay, so a good way to practice breath work is lying on your back. And it's encouraged because you can really access the different parts of the breath and different parts of your body that you're going to be using in a yoga practice. So a lot of times in our sympathetic state, which is our overstressed state, many people breathe up here, shoulder breathing. We're just taking breath, or shallow breaths into the top parts of our lungs and rib cages, and using the upper part, these auxiliary respiratory muscles to help us with the breath. What you want to learn how to do is access deep breathing that involves making expansion away in your abdomen and in your rib cage in all directions, and finally in the upper part. of your body. And so a great way to do that is laying on your back. I'll show you one right now. I don't know if my video will, hopefully will show all of this. I think so, yes, okay. So lying on your back with your knees bent, this will soften your abdomen, which is a great way to begin this, okay? You are going to place one hand on your stomach. The other hand can rest beside you and or on your rib cage if you'd like, okay? But I'll demonstrate it, then I'll talk about it. So I'm going to get all my air out. Okay, so you probably could hear that, and you're supposed to. So that's that breathing I was talking about where I'm swirling the air at the back of my throat, and the breath comes in. I make way in my lower abdomen to allow for breath in, and then my rib cage expands in all directions as the breath moves up my lungs, and then finally into the upper part of my rib cage. And then as I exhale, I contract my abdomen and the air is forced out of my body. Okay, and as I breathe in, I allow my abdomen to relax as the air comes in. So it's a process of allowing this movement in your abdomen, in your rib cage, etc. as you're breathing. So practice that. You can do it with counts. You can play with different counts. There's all sorts of stuff online, but you can count into 3, out for 3, in for 4, out for 4, in, pause for 1, out again, the same count, maybe eventually making your exhale longer than your inhalation. All of these are possibilities. So the point is just access your breath. Once you learn how to take a proper, full and deep breath, you can access that when you are stressed or not even in a yoga class. But the whole point is learning how to breathe outside of, or certainly in moments of tension or stress or anxiety, okay, is accessing that, which is so helpful in so many ways. So please practice that. Okay, so that breath should be accessible all throughout a yoga class, all right? And sometimes it'll be a little more forceful, a little more vigorous, maybe not as long, but essentially that's what you're aiming for. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the basic yoga postures in most classes. We'll talk about standing postures, some forward bending, etc. All right. So in yoga, and really with any kind of mindful movement, you want to be engaging your muscles to support your joints. So as opposed to just sinking into our bodies, or even in this standing two-legged posture, I could let my shoulders slump and I could let everything basically disengage. That's not what we want. So what we want to do is start from the ground up, engage your feet, push your feet into the ground, open up your toes, close your toes, engage your muscles moving up from your feet, engage your quads, tighten up your glutes and your hips and your abdomen. So bring in the muscular tone into the core all the way up so that our spines, our shoulders and our neck essentially are pretty relaxed up here, okay? This should not be working so much, this part of our body, when everything else is engaged. So when you're in a standing posture in yoga, that's what you want to activate. You want to activate all of the muscles that pull you up and out of your pelvis and allow your spine to be freer with less tension in your neck and your shoulders, okay? So even just practicing that posture is a great place to begin when you're learning yoga. And you can work on deep breaths in this standing posture. You can play with your feet together, toes touching. Everyone's bodies are slightly different, and I'm not going to get into all of those philosophies in yoga, but do what feels right in your body as long as you're engaged and you're in the moment and you're breathing. If you want your feet slightly apart, that's absolutely fine as well, okay? And you work on these postures. So that standing posture is really important with shoulders. You notice when I'm standing here in a relaxed posture, my arms are not like this. So you can look at the front of my hands. You don't see the front of my hands with a rolled shoulder posture, okay? So when I'm standing properly and relaxed up here, this is my normal hand posture, which has my thumbs facing forward, even slightly the palms of my hands as my shoulders are depressed and actually quite relaxed. I'm not forcing that, okay? All right, so let's talk about sun salutations, because that's the foundation of many yoga practices, and I think we should go over them here. So I'll go sideways. Hopefully you can see me okay. The video right there, slightly on an angle. Okay. Move it a little bit. There we are. All right. So we're going to run through a series here, taking a deep breath in, reaching up to the sky, and then the next posture would be folding forward. So when we fold forward, for most people to begin, put a slight bend in your knees, okay, and reach forward with a flat back. Forward with your arms, flat back, and you're going to bend over your legs and relax your head and your shoulders as you end your posture here. Eventually, as you are more limber and as your hamstrings warm up, either in time and or during a specific yoga class, your legs can lengthen, and you can practice just lengthening one at a time in this posture, coming back to a bend, and then working on the other side with some deep breaths. Working towards that. As you're stretching your hamstrings, you should be engaging your quads. This right here is the biggest secret in yoga, which is also very hard to practice consistently. So let's go over that together. Whenever you're stretching a muscle, you want to be strengthening the antagonist. So agonist and antagonist muscles, opposing opposite groups. Okay, so tightening your quads, firming these up and keeping these strong, just as you did with your balance posture, is something that should be engaged in a regular way throughout most yoga as you're doing a lot of hamstring stretching. What that does is keep the stretch in the belly of the muscle more so than at the insertion points. So it's safer, especially for newcomers to this practice. You're not going to throw yourself into a posture and pull a muscle. It just helps you stay more contained. And again, back to the purpose of yoga is not achieving the full end game posture that advanced practitioners might be in. It's about slowly and surely increasing movement, resiliency, and adaptability in your body. Okay, that's why you're doing this. To be and the peace of mind that comes with all of that. All right, so flexing up the quads, very important with this forward bend. Okay, after we're going to force, so we'll do that again. So we're breathing in. We'll breathe forward. You can stick your bum out a little bit, bend your knees slightly, flatten your back, lower down. And with the exhale, and as you breathe in, this is where most people have a hard time. So a lot of people, I'll show you what most people do, is they come up to their fingertips or maybe up to their shins. They try to attain a flat back, but usually shoulders are down like this. Okay, that's not what we're trying to achieve. When we come up from this forward fold, you're going to bring your hands up as high as you need to in order to depress your shoulders back and contract between your scapulas, your shoulder blades, okay, into a flat back. So this is the posture as you breathe in. So you breathe out, and you breathe in, and you contract your belly, and you contract your postural muscles, okay? And again, as you come up, flat back, reaching forward, contracting all the way up, back to a standing posture. So that right there is a lot of work if done properly. These postural muscles that for most of us on a regular basis are chronically flexed are weak. They're so weak. They are not happy to be engaged when and if they're not used to that. So I've given a lot of different wall exercises in the past with my patients. I'll go over that on another video. Things you can be doing on a regular basis to work on your posture when at any point in the day, actually. So different skill set, but that is something we want to be working on contracting our upper back as we continue to contract our abdomen. So often we'll splay our rib cage as we, oh yeah, I can bring my shoulders back, but see what happens here? We lean forward and the rib cage sticks out. It's not what we're trying to achieve. What you want to do is keep your abdomen contained, your stomach and your pelvis engaged, and then bringing your shoulders back. Okay? All right, so that's the posture you work on after you fold forward in yoga and you come up with a flat back. Okay? Let's move forward and talk a little bit about plank posture and chaturanga, how to do that properly and safely so you don't injure your shoulders, because I see a lot of shoulder injuries with people. I'm going to try to angle this down just a little bit better without it falling. Okay, hopefully you can see this okay. All right, so any posture in yoga can be done with your knees on the ground. All right, and in fact, for many, many, many people, that might be the only way you ever practice yoga for the rest of your days, and that's fine. And remember to bring props, be prepared ahead of time. If you find that you've forgotten halfway through class, then get up and get some. It's worth protecting your knees. So depending on the kind of mat you have or the floor you're practicing on, you may want to pad up. You either can doubly up your mat when your knees are on the ground, and or you can place a blanket underneath your mat for extra cushioning, and or on top. Point being is you can definitely set it up so that you're protecting your knees and also supporting your body weight that way. Okay, so plank posture is an exercise that's really meant to strengthen your core. Okay, so when you're in plank posture and you are up on your toes, everyone see this okay? I think so. And my shoulders over my wrists, okay? And you can play with different angles when you're in this posture to feel the right one where your shoulders are right over your wrists. Instead of sinking, I'm going to show you this, that's not what you want here. You want to firm up your belly and puff up your upper back, just like that. So the work, you should feel this work in your stomach, okay? Well, you're not in your core, you know what I mean. Okay, in the midsection, all right? If you need to have the knees down, no problem. Put your knees down. You can either point your toes or flex your toes, whatever you're more comfortable with, and do the same work here, okay? Puff up your upper back, take your breath, and work on your core. Okay, can everyone see this? Let me back up a little bit. Okay, and actually I'll just bring this back a little bit too. Okay, so now when you are working on lowering from plank, so let's do it with the knees down first, okay? You can either bring your feet up if you'd like, or not. In this posture, when you lower, you don't want to splay your elbows. You'd like to keep your elbows in next to your body, and you lower down with an exhale down to the ground. The reason this is very important to do properly, I'll show you again, just come on up, okay, is that many people, if you put your feet down and not your knees, you're not strong enough to do this, and your shoulders do this. That's bad. Don't do that. You do that repeatedly, you're going to blow a shoulder. So this is a problem, especially in yoga practice, when and if you're tired and you're not conscious of form. That's when you need to lower your knees. Okay? So you're in your plank, you're puffed up upper back, and as you lower, my shoulders, watch, they're staying away from my ears. My elbows are coming in next to my body. Okay? That's how you lower. Let's do that from a plank posture as well. So in a plank posture, I tip forward and I lower, okay, all the way down. Eventually, we get to the posture where you lower from a plank without touching the floor right into an up dog. I'll save that for another class, okay? All right, so now let's talk about up dog. So we've worked from our plank posture, puff up our upper back, firm up our core, we've lowered down. Now what? Okay, so now we'll work on this posture properly, which is your up dog. Toes should be in the ground, so your toes are spread and they're pushing into the floor. Your hands are down by your rib cage, okay? Your neck is strong and long, and you are going to lift your upper back. This is an upper back bend. As you push your toes into the floor. And my neck is an extension of my spine. So elbows are in, not out here. They're in. And I'm lifting up with very little weight in my hands. Can you see that I can lift them right off the mat? That's what you're trying to achieve. Okay, and you lower and you relax. The goal is not to have so much weight in your hands. You want to be able to contract your upper back and your postural muscles such that you lift without that push. That's what you're working towards. Okay, so toes into the ground. Tighten your lower extremity. And as you breathe in, you lift up. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Excellent. So let's come up to our hands and our knees. Excellent. Okay, what else? Those are the biggies, I have to say. When I'm in a yoga class and I'm not regularly looking around, don't trust me, but I have run into the opportunity to see people in poor postures, and I know there are just injuries waiting to happen. And I also, of course, have seen tons of those in my office. So those are the main tips I have for you right now when you're going through a yoga flow. You're going to stay rooted. You're going to use your muscles to support your joints. You're going to activate your quads when you're stretching your hamstrings. You are going to engage your posture muscles. Shoulders stay away. Oh, we should do downward dog. Shoulders away from the ears. We do our best to depress this area, keeping them engaged, backing down along the spine. Okay. Downward dog. I forgot about that one. So that's a common posture you need to know how to do properly. Okay. So let's talk about that. Downward dog. All right. Let's see how we're going to do this. Everyone can see. I'm in my son's bedroom right now, and I'm limited for space. Okay, so downward dog. A couple things. When your hands are pushed into the mat with downward dog, you should be pushing more pressure into your thumbs and your first digits, okay? Into the mat, or your index fingers, excuse me, okay? So instead of putting our weight on the outsides of our hands, the weight is being evenly dispersed with emphasis on the inner part of our hands. And that's because so many people have the tendency to roll outwards, okay? So just pay attention to that tip, and I'll show you in just a second. So when we're in downward dog, and we would have stepped back from our up dog. So we'll just position our hands on the mat, about shoulder width, and your feet back here on the mat. I think you can see a little bit. Okay, there we go. All right. So again, the purpose of this posture is not to have your feet on the ground if that's not an option for you. Don't worry about it. Your heels can be up off the ground. What you want to do is angle your bum up in the air such that you have a flat back and you're evenly dispersing the weight between your hands and your feet. So I'm pushing against the floor with my arms. My shoulders are engaged. My triceps, so the outer part of my arm, is rolling out, okay, as I put pressure on the inner part of my hands. And then I have equal weight on my feet. So it's supposed to be a resting posture, okay? As you extend this way and you put weight in your feet and your hands, and take deep breaths. And again, trying to contract your quads, not just stretch your hamstrings, but you contract your quads also. You can always pause, bend your knees, tilt your bum up, okay? Feel that extension and then slowly try to extend your legs with breath. Working on all of that, okay? And then when you come in to step forward, you are going to bend. And then when you're able to, eventually you do one big step and then the other. And then that's when we come up to our flat back before the fold. Okay. All right, I'm conscious of not making these videos too long. I think, oh my gosh, I've already gone over 20 minutes. So I hope that's helpful. Please reach out. If any of you have questions specifically about yoga, I'd love to help out in any way I can. Any other movement questions or tips for home right now, I'd love to go over with you. And that's that for today. So, oh man, I just thought about one more thing. One more thing. Okay, 2 minutes. Okay. Chaturanga, let's discuss this, okay? So this is the seated chair posture in yoga, right? Where they say, okay, feet about hip width apart or feet together, your choice. Kind of get on a 90-degree angle. And then you're going to sit back into your imaginary chair. I'm trying to angle myself so everyone can see this properly. Okay, so not knees over feet, but knees over ankles as much as you can, sitting back. And when you do this, engaging your glutes. So most people only engage their quads. What you want to do is sit back in your chair. And once you do that, feel your butt and make sure you are contracting your glute muscles. Most women specifically have very weak glutes. This is the posture. You want to engage the quads and your butte. Very important, and if you could work on that every day a little bit, and depending wherever your arms manage to make it, if eventually they're up by your ears, fantastic. That will do wonders for strengthening your body. Okay, much love, and I'll be in touch soon. Okay, bye.